Welcome. Parks, Recreation and Community Services Commission, regular meeting, Monday, October 16. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sasatrian?
Present.
Michaels?
Present.
Wolfson?
Present.
Wu?
Present.
President Kalfayan.
Yes.
The agenda for the October 16, 2017 regular meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before Friday, October 13, 2017. Item 2, introductions and presentations. At A, recognition of outgoing Commissioner Peter Fuad.
Would like to come here? Maybe down there it's better, the camera see.
I'm not allowed up there anymore.
Who said so?
Just because you forgot your tie.
Sure. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Peter Ford, with gratitude for your years of outstanding service to the Parks, Recreation and Community Services Commission, July 2013 till July 2017. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And will be missed. You'll be missed.
Thank you. It was an honor and a pleasure to serve on the commission, and before this one, the Traffic and Transportation Commission. I went from traffic to Tranquility Parks. And with the Parks Department, I became very impressed over my tenure here that it's a very well-run department. Like a lot of Glendale departments, there's outreach to the community, and you're responsive to the community when there are issues. I was told I was on this commission for 4 years, which shocks me, but it takes, time flies when you're taking notes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the item.
Item 3 is upcoming council agenda items.
President Kalfayan, members of the commission, we have a few items coming up. On November 7th, we have the approval of Dukmajian Park conceptual plan. Depending on what feedback we get from commission this afternoon, we hope to go to council on the 7th to get their approval. Approval of installation of outdoor exercise equipment at Pelanconi Park and Car Park, and approval of playground replacement at Car Park and Nibley Park. And Housing Authority and City Council report the status of program planning for fiscal year 18-19 for CDBG, ESG, and home funds. This will be all on November 7th.
Next item.
Next is item 4, commission staff comments.
Any comments?
President
Next.
Kalfayan, members of the commission, I do have several events and activities to announce. If you'll just bear with me for a second while I put them up. Okay, so Thanksgiving camp registration begins October 16th. That's today. It began at 9 a.m. this morning. The comedic tragedy of Macbeth will be offered at Brand Park between now and October 21st at 7:30 p.m. daily. Glendale's Midweek Munchies will have that on Wednesday, October 18th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the parking lot at the corner of Verdugo Road and Mountain Street. And we'll have the original grilled cheese truck and Cousin's Maine Lobster trucks there. Friday Night Lights will be offered on October 20th from 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at Verdugo Skate Park. Fall Festival will be taking place at Pacific Community Center on October 21st from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Street Food Cinema will be showing A Nightmare Before Christmas at Verdugo Park on October 21st at 5:30 p.m. Teen Night Out will be offered at Pacific Community Center on October 27th from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Street Food Cinema will also be offering Beetlejuice at Central Park on October 28th at 5:30 p.m. Seniors will be having their Halloween lunch celebration at the Adult Recreation Center and Spar Heights Community Center on October 31st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Teen Night Out will be taking place on November 3rd as well from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Glendale Health Festival at Pacific Community Center, November 4th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We'll have an interpretive hike and program. It's a family event. Go out and play at Dukmajian Wilderness Park on November 5th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Registration for winter session classes will begin November 6th at 9 a.m. November 10th is a city holiday. It's Veterans Day. All city offices will be closed. All community centers will be open for regular hours, but there will be no congregate meals. On November 10th, we'll be offering a winemaking in the Crescenta Canada Valleys. Then and Now. It's a Friday night lecture, part of the Friday night lecture series, and that will be offered at Dugmajan Wilderness Park. We'll have a Riverwalk work day at Glendale Narrows Riverwalk on November 11th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Winter camp registration begins November 13th at 9 a.m. Seniors will be having their Thanksgiving luncheon on November 16th at the Adult Recreation Center in Spar Heights Community Center from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we'll be offering another Glendale's Midweek Munchies parking lot 31, November 15th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And stay tuned for which trucks will be offered, but definitely the original grilled cheese truck. Club Maple will be having their Thanksgiving event at Maple Park Community Center on November 16th from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. We'll have another tea night out at Pacific Community Center on November 17th from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. We'll be offering a Parents' Night Out at Pacific Community Center on November 17th from 6:30 p.m. to 12 midnight. Another Wilderness Workday will be offered at Dugmajan Wilderness Park on November 18th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Dugmajan Wilderness Park. We'll have a kimono fashion show and class at Brand Park Tea House on November 19th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And following that, drumming and the martial arts at Brand Park Tea House, November 19th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Cool Days Thanksgiving Camp will be taking place from November 20th through the 22nd at Pacific Community Center. And then we'll be back here on November 20th for another commission meeting at 2:30 p.m. For more information, please call 818-548-2000 or visit www.glendalecA.gov/residents/calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next is item 5, oral communications. We do not have any cards. Item 6, consent items. At A is approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held on August 21st, 2017.
Do we have any changes?
I do have a couple of comments on item C in the minutes. I would like to give Commissioner Wilson a chance to clarify her comment that just doesn't appear to stand well on its own. And I believe the second comment that is attributed to Commissioner Wilson was mine.
That is correct. I will make that change as far as under 7C, just for clarification. The comment about concessionaires and vending machines, if they're selling healthy snacks, that was made by Commissioner Michaels and not Wolfson. So I'll make that correction.
I think my comment stands. It's just that I was commenting that it's unusual for a loss to go down when revenues also went down. So maybe just add the word,
Revenue loss.
Noted that loss went down even though revenues also went down. I don't know how to make it more clear.
Also went down?
Yeah.
So how is that? Please repeat it.
So it would be Commissioner Wilson commented that loss went down even though revenues also went down?
Yeah, or just noted that that's unusual, maybe. It's... Thank you.
So noted that it's unusual that loss went down even though revenues also went down?
Right.
Does that clarify it for you?
That clarifies it.
Okay.
Any other comments here?
I have one comment about under number 4. If you can just add the word also after which on the second line, because the report that I requested was specific to the future plans of Camp Rosie. And I asked I don't want just a report that addresses these issues, but also addresses these issues.
Okay. So which also addresses whether or not?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will make that change as well.
Any other comments? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move it.
Okay, second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Commissioners Asatrian?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Wolfson?
Yes.
Wu?
Abstain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Kalfayan?
Yes.
Okay. Item number 7, action items. At 8, election of officers. At 1 will be president and 2 secretary.
Okay, you take it over.
So President Kalfayan, we had talked earlier about turning over the meeting to me at this time so that we can run the elections. So the business before the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission is the selection of a new president. I will now entertain nominations for that office.
So we need nominees.
I nominate Commissioner Michaels.
Are there any further nominations? Okay, then in that case, I will go ahead and take roll call. Commissioner Satrian?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalfayan?
Yes.
Michaels?
Yes.
Wolfson?
Yes.
And Wu.
Yes.
Okay, I now declare Commissioner Michaels the duly elected president of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission. Mr. President, the task before you now is to open the floor for nominations for secretary.
I will open the floor for nominations for Secretary of the Commission.
Okay. I nominate Commissioner Asatarian.
Are there any further nominations?
Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, I believe we can announce that Commissioner Asatrian is the Secretary of the Parks and Recreation Community Services Commission.
Vote, right?
Do we?
We have
Oh,
to
sorry.
vote.
If there's consensus, I don't need to take a roll call, and it seems like there is since nobody
Well,
else voted.
we'll
So
call for a roll call.
roll call. Okay. Commissioner Asatrian,
Yes.
Kalfayan,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes.
and Wu.
Yes.
Okay, I now declare Commissioner Asatrian the duly elected Secretary of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission. You're welcome to change
Okay.
seats or just...
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
sir.
Yes.
Do you stay here? Do you stay in this seat?
Yeah.
That's good.
We'll now call the next item, which is the Duke Media Nature Education Center.
Thank you. And just for the record, that's 7B. And at 1 is a motion to review and provide feedback regarding the Duke Media Nature Education Center conceptual design. Thank you.
Housekeeping.
Okay, thank you. President Michaels, members of the commission. In your packets, you'll see the Duke Media Nature Education Center project report. We have been, the last about over 25 years, so we've been working on this project, and we're excited to present to you our conceptual plan. And after the presentation, please, if you have any questions or you'd like to provide feedback, we're more than happy to receive feedback and incorporate into the conceptual plan. As you know, the park, it's a 709-acre natural park. It is a passive park that features 7 miles of recreational trails, a picnic area, amphitheater for outdoor programs, a vineyard, a ranch house that serves as our headquarters of the Trails and Open Space program, and the historical MSNJ barn, which was built over 100 years ago. The city purchased the park in 1989, and in 91 they developed a master plan for the park, and it was recommended for the barn to become a nature education center. And the last, like I mentioned earlier, the last 25 years, we've been, planning the park in multiple phases, due to the scope and complexity of the project. The park and barn are being preserved, restored, and developed in several phases. The phase one was the historical assessment and structural analysis of the barn and the nearby shed. Staff looked at the structural stabilization of the barn, the roof, the external bracing, and they conducted a structural analysis of the integrity of existing mortar and stone, and removal of the interior wooden walls. Phase 2 was the hiking trail construction, and Phase 3 was the development of the 12-acre lower portion of the park, which includes picnic shelters, restrooms, and an amphitheater, and the parking lot. Phase 4 is what we're currently in. Phase 4, Part 1 was completed in 2011. That was the seismic upgrade, construction of 8 new buttresses, 2 bond beams, 2 structural steels, and new retaining wall. We also had the roof reconstructed and demolition and removal of the remaining floor and retaining wall. We also had some plumbing and safety improvements. We had a new water and sewer line installed, fire sprinklers, and some electrical work. Phase 4, Part 2, this was completed. These are the mechanical systems. It was completed a couple weeks ago. It was the excavation, shoring and filling and grading of the floor, the HV system, new plumbing and sink counter, and some electrical wiring for fixtures and so on. We also had poured a no concrete floor slab, glass storefront entry, and ADA improvements. These pictures were taken, I believe, last week. Basically, this phase, Part 2, has been completed. Our next phase is the interpretive center. We're looking at barn interior improvements. That's where the nature education will be held with displays, exhibits, and audiovisual equipment. New restroom facilities. We'll have some minor landscaping around the barn. Interpretive signage, and ideally, depending on funding, we would like to expand the patio, construct an overflow parking lot, a new wilderness-themed playground, a tiny top playground for kids ages between 2 and 12-year-olds, a concession stand, and also a second floor or office multi-purpose room for our Trails and Open Space program. So the first drawing, the upper orange building, let me start off with the blue building in the center. That's going to be our restroom building, ADA accessible restroom building. And the orange building is the second floor, possible future of second floor office and multi-purpose room. The green area is the landscaped new landscaping area around the barn, and the lower blue, let me see if my mouse does work. So this area, we would like to have some additional landscaping. This is the new restroom building. We're going to construct, basically dig out the little mountain area and put the restroom there, so we don't build over open space. The blue building here is the current restrooms. We will leave the restrooms as is, and depending on funding, we would like to make this area into a concession stand. This orange area is basically, like I mentioned earlier, if we were to get additional funding after Part 3 is completed, we would like to build a second story to house our Trails and Open Space program there and have a multi-purpose room, which would be closer to the Nature Education Center instead of using the ranch house. Yes?
Quick question. Did I hear you correctly when you said that the restroom that's currently on the bottom of that diagram is going to be converted to the concession stand?
If we were to get additional funding. Right now, we will leave the restroom as is. But somewhere in the area, we would like to add a concession stand, depending on if it's feasible, if we can do it. If we can't, then we'll look at an alternate location.
So you will be replacing the restroom to make that into a concession stand, or will you
Yes.
be erecting a whole new building?
We would be using this building for a concession stand.
Okay, so
So
where
this restroom right here that we're going to be building would be adequate enough for the entire park.
it will be.
Yes.
So, I mean, the only reason why I'm just kind of questioning that is because we do have an existing restroom, and then since we're going to be building another one, I thought it would be great where we could have people don't have to walk. I don't know how long that distance is, but if you're saying that you're going to get rid of that and replace it with a concession stand, I'm just curious to see. But you're saying that the new restroom is going to be able to
Yes.
accommodate everyone?
It's going to be twice the size of the current restroom.
Okay.
I mean, this is just an option. This would be for the next phase if we were to get funding. We currently only have budgeted $2,044,000 for this next phase, which will include the restroom, the nature education center, the landscaping, and the signage. That's it. So if we were to get funding, we will be securing grants and hopefully use Measure A money from LA County. When the revenues start coming in, we will look at a phase 4.
When that is a consideration, distance from the picnic area to the new restroom, I think would be a consideration as well.
Yes.
I would suggest that, like, the commissions should go, be taken there and be more practical to see it, and then give our comments than just like this. Then we'll know exactly what we're talking about, the bathrooms and so on.
I agree.
If we can arrange something like that, is it possible?
Sure. That would have to be one-on-one or two commissioners at a time.
That's fine.
We can set something up.
Okay. Thank you.
The picture on the left, the rendering on the left, is the existing layout of the barn. The picture on the right, basically, the consultant came up with an option of having stairs going to the lower level of the barn as a ceremonial option. So if we have weddings, quinceañeras, baptisms, we can have the bride and groom or the person celebrating their event walk down to the second floor, exit towards the patio, and take pictures. It's more of a ceremonial thing. And then the blue area would be the ADA lift that we are proposing to. So having ADA access instead of going outside around the path into from the backside, we just have an ADA lift here. So it would be much easier for ADA accessibility. The interior, the barn education concept, this is really exciting, and this is the consultant gave us a lot of good information. Their conceptual has a front desk here, semicircular, to greet the patrons, greet the users of the facility. This area, we would have bleachers that fold in and fold out. If we were to have students come in from Glendale Unified or the private schools in the area, we could have them sit and listen to the instructor talk about nature education, the different types of animals in our wilderness parks and so on. We have all mobile boards that will talk about education, ecology, nature, and so on. We would have audiovisual equipment connected to main screen and show basically educational films. There's a map on the corner here, a topographical map of our trails and our park system. The lower level will have a kids area, 5 to 10 kids area, something similar to what they have at Kids Space Museum in Pasadena. The kids will come in and they'll have their arts and crafts and do work on projects related to nature.
How many square footage is the whole thing?
The entire square, I would need to get that information. This is the low patio area. The white area is the existing patio. That's about 700 square feet. We would like to expand it to 1,230 square feet and also install a metal trellis, which will not be connected to the building due to its historical significance. So eventually what we like to do is also expand the patio for receptions, gatherings, educational events, and so on. Yes.
I'm sorry, I forgot. So if we go to the slide right before this one, you know, when you're saying that you're going to be holding like informational session for kids, are you going to be staffing it with city staff or volunteers that's going to be leading those classes? And because I figured you're going to have staff or
Yes.
some teacher or proctor.
Once when the entire project is completed, we will be turning in a service level increase for employees to work the center. We'll have a set time. Let it be Monday through Thursday, 5 to 9 or 5 to 8. We would have our Trails and Open Space section. They'll conduct an interpretive education, or we will also hire our contract instructors from the local schools in the area, from the colleges, to conduct educational meetings and so on, trainings.
So will there be a fee to offset the additional staff?
No.
So
This will be a free, open to the public facility. There will be a fee for renting of the facility if they want to rent it for a wedding and so on. So those rental fees will hopefully offset staffing.
So it'll be offered to all the Glendale Unified School District schools, as well as you said, private school as well.
Private schools, Glendale Unified. We're not going to say no to any other schools. Let it be day camps. We're hoping to have or expand our day camp program and have a nature education day camp program. So there's a lot of opportunities when this building is open.
Just want to make sure that whatever additional expenses it's generating, there's a way for us to offset it without incurring additional expenses.
Yeah, we'll do our best to market it and have the events. That revenue coming in will offset the staffing.
Thank you.
Yes.
And previously, before we move on, the interior improvements, there was talk that those would be able to be moved out of the way. Has a design or a concept for that movement been approved or
Yes.
proposed?
As I mentioned earlier, everything would be mobile, so we'll have storage area. We'll move all the boards and educational material out, and we can set up for an event.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the proposed idea of being able to raise it into the rafters, that was not part of this design?
It is.
It is?
Not rafters, but it'll go up and down, depending on how the architect will design it for us. But we are hoping that all of our educational material is mobile. We move it out, move it up and down, move it in storage so we can staff can set up for a special event. And Commissioner Kalfayan, the interior is 3,000 square feet.
I have a question. Is there a space to expand, to put soccer fields or basketball, be competition to sports complex? Since we have a exit from here, right, from the freeway.
President Michaels, members of the commission, Commissioner Kalfayan, there's a lot of space, but Duke Majan is a passive park. It's a park with, 7 miles of trails, and having active recreation there will change the use of the park. We already have issues with parking in that area on a weekend morning, Saturday or Sunday, with a lot of hikers hiking the trails. Having soccer or basketball active sports, I recommend working with Glendale Unified and their schools to see if we can build facilities on their property, like what we're doing at Wilson Middle School and Cerritos Elementary. The land is there, but changing the use from a passive to active park,
What does it need to change it?
We would probably need an EIR, environmental impact report, and community input.
Can I ask a question? For special events, you mentioned people could rent the space and have special events, and then how would the parking for those events be managed, or what would be the parameters for that?
Commissioner Michaels, members of the commission, special events, no more than 100, 125 people. So we're thinking maybe 50 to 60 vehicles. The park can take that many vehicles, and it'll be, we currently rent the facility in the afternoons, not in the mornings when the facility is busy with hikers. So when the facility is available or less busier, after 2, 3 o'clock. So that's when we'll make it available for the public to rent. We don't encourage the staff to rent the facility in the mornings between 7 a.m. to 12, is because that's when all of our hikers are out there and getting their morning exercise.
Thank you.
We do have the expansion space if we have to expand the parking lot.
Yes, that's going to be on the next slide.
Before we move on from the vineyard, can you explain how the proposed increase of the patio would affect the existing vineyard?
The existing vineyard will, basically the expansion of the patio will take away 2 rows of the existing vineyard, but the current vineyard will be there except 2 rows will be out. And we can work with the organization that oversees the vineyard and have them plant elsewhere in the park.
Would there be additional space proposed for the vineyard?
That's the plan.
I apologize. President Michaels, what was your last question or comment?
As part of the plan, would additional space for the vineyard be proposed for the Stone Barn Conservancy?
Thank you.
Okay, the next slide, you'll see the conceptual plan for the wilderness playground. This is in the lower level of lower area of the park. We would like to add a educational component, a playground that is not seen in our parks, more with the natural feeling, the wood feeling, something similar to Kid Space, where the kids can go up and climb on pieces of wood and trees and so on. So we're working with the consultant to identify playground companies that can build these structures. But this is also conceptual. If we were to get funding, we would like to place a tiny tot wilderness themed playground in the lower level of lower area of the park. And then our overflow parking. We currently have our overflow parking here. It's a DG parking lot. We would like to build a overflow lot here. Once again, this is part of our conceptual. If funding becomes available, this will add another about 25 spaces here. We did a traffic study, in-house traffic study, and within 4 weeks, we got about 4,700 vehicles that entered the park. So we do get a lot of traffic into the park, and this was done last year at this time in September, end of September. So we do get a lot of traffic. I know we've had some parking concerns over the last few months, and we've been working with our parking enforcement and parking manager to see where our users can park on the side of the road, or if we give them access elsewhere in the park. I mean, it's a good problem to have. People are using the park, but eventually we would like to expand our overflow parking if funds were to become available.
So how is the current overflow parking situation, where you said they're parking on the street?
They're parking on the side. When you go up the park, they're park on the side, or any empty space available, they will park. It's happened a few times, but now we have the overflow lot is full every weekend on a Saturday or Sunday. So once when the overflow lot is full, then we have patrons parking on Mark Ridge walking up.
Which is residential?
Which is residential, yes.
So they're parking on residential street because there's no parking in the parking lot as well as the overflow?
Yes.
So have we had any concerns or any complaints from the adjacent residents?
We haven't had any concerns by the residents. We have had concerns by park users because one Saturday they did get ticketed. But other than that, we haven't had any concerns regarding with the residents.
And there's signs that say, for whatever reason, they'll be ticketed if so and so such things are done?
There are no parking signs.
Oh, there are no parking signs.
Some areas there are no parking, so if you park there, they'll get a ticket. Most of the areas we did switch around the parking signs in the park so we can have the patrons park.
And then when they're parking on the side, are they impeding any potential first responder, like, I mean, if by chance we need to get fire trucks up there, are they impeding that ways or routes?
President Michaels, members of the commission, before we changed the parking signs, we met with the battalion chief of Glendale Fire and the assistant fire marshal. They went up there and they gave us the go-ahead. As long as you have clear, I believe, 20 or 25 feet for a fire truck and a fire ladder ambulance to get up there, which we do, they okayed us to take away the no parking signs on one side of the road.
All right, thank you.
So the next slide shows the interpretive themes and goals. We're going to be, talking about life at the edge, where plates collide. Talk about the Mediterranean climate, how life adapts to geography, the wilderness, and the plants and creatures that are in our wilderness parks. Fire prevention, planting, and trail management. With all the wildfires going on, I think it's really good to educate, especially the kids and preteens and teens on fire prevention, and also how to coexist with our critters, how to coexist with the animals. We've had a lot of wildlife sighting up in the La Crescenta area, let it be bears, coyotes, bobcats, and we'll have our Trails and Open Space team come in and provide that nature education on how to spot the animal and what to do if you have a bear in your backyard or a coyote and so on, and also the historical contributions of the La Crescenta area and the identity of Los Angeles. So these are the themes and goals that will be touched upon as part of our interpretive display in the barn. So budget history. The first phase, acquisition, site improvements, and trail construction cost about $6.9 million. The phase 4, part 1, the seismic upgrades, which was completed in 2011, $1.4 million. Part 2 and part 3 is about $3 million. Total will cost us $3 million once when the nature education is completed. Funded versus unfunded. As I've mentioned the last few minutes, what's funded for the next phase is the interior and exterior improvements of the barn, the new restroom facilities, the landscaping around the barn perimeter. And The new overflow lot, the patio expansion, the snack bar concession, the playground, and the second floor expansion, those are not funded. And we will be looking at different types of grant funding through the state of California. And as I mentioned earlier, Measure A, when that revenue comes in, we'll start looking at applying for Measure A funds, the LA County funds. And hopefully we can complete all these on the list within the next 3, 4, 5 years. Any questions?
So of the amount that this, you've got impact fees contributing $2.5 million, and $500,000 from CIP funds, which, what exactly is that?
CIP funds are capital improvement project funds.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought. But, so how much funding do we have of this? I mean, numerically?
Right now for the next phase, for phase 4, part 3, we have $2,044,000.
Okay, so we do have $2,044,000.
Yes, and that includes the design, which we've done now, the design all the way through construction.
Okay. All right. So we're short like a little more than, we're short a little bit less than $1 million to.
No, we're not sure.
We don't have the funding yet.
We don't have the funding yet, but we have the funding to get part 3 completed, which is the bathroom and the nature education center. Basically, that's our need. Our want is our overflow parking lot, our playground, our concession stand, and so on. And with that, we would go out.
So that's for the applying for grants.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Did you guys consider, or is there a possibility to add a off-leash dog area in the park, or is that?
I'm sorry?
An off-leash dog area, is that possible to include in the plans? Is that something that we can look into? Because there aren't many in Glendale, and I'd like to see us implement those in future plans that we have for various parks.
We could look into it. Not sure where we'd put an off-leash dog park and how much extra it'll cost, but we would go ahead and look at it and work with our consultant.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Receiving the comments from the commission, has that met the need of staff?
Yes.
Moving on now to reports. I think we're ready for the Civic Auditorium Annual Report.
President Michaels, this is an action item, so we are asking for a motion and a second. Basically, to just accept the feedback as presented, I guess.
Okay.
So are we going to take a motion on as is, or are we going to incorporate the comments and recommendations from the commission that was brought up today? So what's on the floor at the present time?
Right. Are you looking for a motion to put forth the comments presented by the commission as feedback?
That is correct.
Okay. Or are you looking for the commission to vote to approve the current plan?
We're not looking for approval. It would be the former, basically just accepting or making a note of the feedback provided by the commissioners during the conversation, which I have made a note of.
Okay, so we'd be looking for a motion to note the comments made by the commission as feedback on their staff report.
Correct.
Okay.
Would this still be going to the council on November 7th? So how does this work?
President Michaels, members of the commission, will probably delay it for a few weeks so we can schedule meetings, one-on-ones or two-on-ones with each member. And when we finalize the meetings, and then we'll go at it and submit the conceptual plan to council.
There's no, I'm sorry, there's no definite timeline when this has to go before council now, is it?
There's no timeline, but we would like to, since we have the conceptual, the consultant is waiting for us to approve so they can start working on the schematic design. Since phase 4, part 2, the mechanical system phase is completed, we would like to start with the next phase, which is the Nature Education Center.
Can we postpone this for next meeting? Since would that delay you if we postponed?
Would a motion to note and file with comments this report, knowing that individual meetings will be scheduled and more comments may come in, suffice the action item currently?
Yeah. I think, yes.
So a motion could be made to incorporate comments made at the meeting today and also to incorporate any additional comments made when commissioners make site visit? Would
Yes.
that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't think,
President Michaels, members of the commission, comments made outside of the meeting would not be able to incorporate. So if we were to want to wait to take this to council, we would have to come back next month back to commission for you to give us additional comments. But that just delays the timeline for the consultant, which adds additional funding. So I think what we can do, if commission is comfortable, is we do have your comments from today's meeting. Again, of course, if depending on how Mr. Bulanikian feels, if we are able to delay this, but we would basically need to, and we would normally what we would do is take commission's comments, depending on what the comments are. If they do need to be incorporated into the plan before it goes to council, then we would then follow up with the consultant to be able to see if we are able to make those adjustments and then take it to council. But we could also let council know what the commission's feedback is, and if council agrees with that feedback, then we would go back to the drawing board and work with the consultant. So that's normally how the feedback works. So commission's feedback goes to council, and then depending on what council's feedback is, we would then either proceed or we would work with a consultant to make additional changes.
I understand that the CDBG grant applications are going to be due end of November. If we delay this, is this going to have any impact on that? Okay.
No, it won't. One other thing we can do is, instead of meeting one-on-one, we can have a special meeting on site and we just have to Brown Act it. Maybe we can do that depending on everyone's availability. We can meet there for about an hour and we can Brown Act.
Okay.
I would be open to that.
That would be more effective, I think.
I have one quick question. You had mentioned that if we were to have this come back later or next month, we wouldn't be incurring additional funds to the consultant. If there's no work currently being done, are they on like some sort of a retainer? Or why would we incur additional funds if we are just basically telling the consultant to kind of sit idle until we get certain things finalized?
Well, if we do, President Michaels, Commissioner Wu, if we were to ask them to go back and work on additional plans before it goes to council and then have to go back to them again with additional plans, that's what I mean. So if we have to go back to them twice, depending on what council's feedback is, that potentially delays the project. So if there is no work to be done, you're absolutely correct. There's no work to be done and there would be no fee. But if we were to go back to them to look at or consider other plans before it goes to council, then potentially there would be additional fees to be incurred. So it just depends on how we go about it.
But given that there was feedback from pretty much all of us on the plan provided, wouldn't you have to already go back to the consultant for him to look at what's feasible and what's not?
We could always take the feedback to council and say, this is the feedback this is what staff is presented to commission. This is the feedback received from the commissioners. And then based on that, proceed. Again, I think we heard from Commissioner Asatrian that you'd like to consider a off-leash dog park at either this park or any other park.
Well, if we can take a look at first, I mean, this is the one that we're talking about, so I'm asking if there's space here. I definitely would like to see the distance and whatnot with the restrooms and whatnot, so
I think the issue before the commission is, do we formalize these comments? I believe there's an interest in having all the commissioners have a site visit, whether that is a Brown Acted meeting or individual meetings. So my recommendation at this point would be to table a motion and collect additional feedback before we present that to council or to the consultant. Since we have comments now, but it appears there will be additional comments coming.
So to clarify, does that mean that you're interested in Brown acting a special meeting at the site, or?
Yes.
Yes.
And tabling the motion?
Yes.
And tabling the motion for the moment until that.
So noted. So noted.
Are we ready for the next item?
Yes. The next item is item 8, reports for information only at A's Civic Auditorium Annual Report. It's there.
Good afternoon, President Michaels, members of the Commission. I'm Laura Dalian, Community Services Supervisor of the Civic Auditorium, and I'm here today to present the annual report for the Civic Auditorium, and I have passed out copies of our current brochure for you to look over at your convenience. The Civic Auditorium was built in 1937 and was the largest municipal auditorium on the West Coast at the time. And since then, it's been renovated twice, 2 major renovations, one in 1964 and in 1997. And there has been a recent refurbishment of the auditorium in 2017, including restoring the north entrance to build to the original architectural design by removing the pillars and the canopy over the door, repainting the exterior, improving the landscape, and replacing the exterior lighting. In 2016, we got a new digital marquee allowing us to better advertise our events and rentals, and also citywide events and announcements.
Can you use the clicker?
This one, sorry.
Go ahead.
The Civic Auditorium is the perfect location for meetings, private parties, receptions, conventions, seminars, trade shows, concerts, trainings, and many more events. The Civic Auditorium also is used for citywide trainings, job applicants' personnel tests, citywide meetings, city special events, and it is an emergency operations center. Services include adjacent parking, security guard service, insurance availability, ADA accessibility, audiovisual services, Wi-Fi connection, kitchen access, event planning assistant, event management, and logistical assistant. The upper auditorium is 11,000 square feet, includes hardwood floors, open layout, a full stage, high ceiling with a skylight and a wide entrance, accommodates 1,100 seating, theater style, and about 800 with dance floor banquet style seating. Adjacent areas include the breakout room, terrace room, north foyer, full commercial kitchen, dressing rooms, and the garage structure is the designated parking for this auditorium. The lower auditorium is 13,000 square feet and includes middle sunken parquet floor, storefront entrance and lobby, counter bar area, accommodates up to 600 people for dinner, dances, banquets, exhibit receptions, and festivals. Adjacent areas as a breakout room is the conference room and commercial kitchen, courtyard, and the designated parking is in lot 31. The largest revenue source for the Civic Auditorium is from the facility rentals and equipment. This includes the rentals of rooms along with equipment such as tables and chairs, pipe and draping, and soccer court in the upper auditorium when it is available to fit in this event. Parking in the garage structure in Lot 31 are also large sources of revenue, and customers may pay for parking flat fee of designated and approved commission fees, or it's $6 per car entry. Both of these payments are reflected in the revenue for the Civic Auditorium. Civic Auditorium staff also delivers equipment to many events, citywide events, although only a small portion of it being paid. The majority of the equipment deliveries are for the citywide and department events. The cost of these are either charged directly to the city department requesting the equipment or are absorbed into the expenditures of the Civic Auditorium. Expenditures in fiscal year 2016-2017 have decreased by almost $86,000. The majority of this was in maintenance and operation. Along with careful monitoring of expenses, this decrease is due to the digital marquee that was purchased in 2015-2016. There were no large single purchases in this fiscal year, therefore we see the decrease of revenue more. Staffing costs did also decrease. Revenue was down this fiscal year. A number of large events were unexpectedly canceled by promoters due to the budgeting issues, their own budgeting issues, and scheduling conflicts with other venues. Staff continues to reach out to promoters for events that were canceled in an attempt to bring them back to the Civic Auditorium or trying to replace them with new events. And in this fiscal year, we have already a couple of big new events coming to the Civic, which one of them is a toy train show in November, and another big event in November, bodybuilding, fitness, nutritious World Cup event, and expected to have guests from all over the world to this event. And by the way, this event not only a revenue source for the Civic Auditorium, but for the entire city because several hotels already booked over 40 hotel room nights for this event. Over the last 6 years, the Civic Auditorium staff has strategically decreased the yearly deficit by carefully monitoring staff hours and expenditures and attempting to increase revenue by bringing new events. The annual operating deficit has decreased from $280,000 annually just over $59,000 this fiscal year. Staff worked with graphics department this year to create a new brochure and new website at www.glendalecivic.com. The brochure is available online on the website. It is also given out to the marketing booths at the events. We also took out an ad in one of the local special event brochures this year through the Oakmont Country Club Event Planning Service, which is a private directory promotion. The Civic Auditorium looks different with every unique setup, and here are some pictures from different events and different setups. This is a dignitary dinner dance, and the special entrance, I just rushed into it, that they created a dignitary entrance, special entrance from the structure coming to the Civic Auditorium. This is from the most recent private auction dinner, MTO School of Sufism. Another private event. This is a beauty forum event at the Civic Auditorium. This is from last year, and currently today we're having this event repeating, coming back. Right now they're operating at the Civic. Another private event, also from the MTO Sufism event. This is from police award ceremony we had last year. Health fair, indoor soccer with a setup, boxing event, antique Western vintage show, a New Year's Eve celebration by a private promoter, same event. And this is a private birthday party, an outside function in Lot 31. The Civic Auditorium is available for your event, and we advertise the number and the website on every occasion for them to call us and plan their events. This concludes my presentation.
I have a question.
Please.
I do appreciate that you're working on the deficit. It's been all those years that we're here, it's always coming down. I do appreciate that. But my question is, why can't this community support more this location? We do have, even from the city and all kind of different functions, we go to hotels, we go to banquet rooms, and we don't go to our own civic auditorium. That's a question in my mind, and we should work on it. The community should support this, because we don't have a choice. We cannot do anything unless we get rid of it.
Commissioner,
and I can see a lot of banquet rooms popping left and right as much as the city let them, and they're all doing business. And I'm sure they're all making profit, and we're losing money.
Commissioner Kalfayan, we're in a very tough marketing competitor business at this point, and the department works very hard to make improvements, also interior, so we can compete in the market. As of this moment, we offer as a selling point what we have, and it includes our good service, the clean auditorium. We just painted the building. We're hoping that eventually we'll make some improvements inside of the auditorium. There's some plans that we're thinking maybe to create a banquet hall to compete with other banquet halls, or improve our upper auditorium to make a convention center to compete with other convention center. Eventually, we're hoping that will attract more public to come and rent our facility.
Do we get any funds from the parking when we have function there?
Yes, we charge $6 per car entry, and there's also commission-approved rate, flat parking fee. If it is going as part of the contract, then it's absolutely open to the public to come in.
What do we get out of the 6?
What do we get out of the 6? We have the labor that covers the parking booth.
We run the operation?
Yes, we operate the parking booth, the labor.
Commissioner, President Michaels, members of the commission, it's $6 an entry, and the parking booth is operated by city staff. We also get a flat fee between $56,000 to $60,000 a year from Glendale College as part of the joint powers agreement that we have for them to use both our parking structure and Lot 31 during the school season. One challenge that we have is the community events that are hosted at the hotels during the day. They have the parking. We do have parking, but we make the parking available per the JPA for the students Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. There are some days that we do request the parking lot. What Laura will do is email the chief of police telling them we need the parking for this day. Would it be okay? Once when we get their confirmation, then we close the lot to students and open it up for our event. But we need to, part of the JPA is that we have to make both the parking structure and lot 31 available for the students to park Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m.
I'd like to see all our functions to go there instead of going somewhere else. We should make an effort to make profit, not even lose money, not even get even. We should make money in there. We have a good facility. It's a good location.
Well, what are some of the advertisement methods that you guys use? I saw that you also launched a new website. Are you doing online ads? Is the website SEO optimized?
Yeah. Commissioner Satrian, our brochure is available on a website, and with communicating every potential customer, we email the brochures. With the new website that we just created also, we gave our customers an option finally to advertise their own events. That is another exposure for the Civic Auditorium. Before before being able to do that, people thought that there's no events happening and there's no action happening at the Civic Auditorium. So this is a plus also to expose the facility. Being a busy facility, people like to go to busy places. Also, we, as I said last year, and probably this year too, based on our funds, we are planning to advertise an Oakmont Country Club almanac that we did last year, and we had some positive responses from there. Also, the electronic marquee outside, also exposure for the Civic Auditorium.
So there is online marketing, online ads that the department's placing, and have you guys done SEO optimization on the website?
Yes, we did, and the brochures also are available online as well.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Golia, Senior Community Services Supervisor. We have not taken out any paid online advertising at this point in time, but we certainly will look into that and see which locations that we can advertise would serve us best and be the best bang for our dollar.
Okay.
Has the Civic Auditorium, I noticed we have like about 6 years of history, but what about before 2011 to 12? Was it operating at a loss always, or what's the situation?
Since the Civic Auditorium became an enterprise fund, the deficit started accumulating from year to year. At one point, it reached to almost to $400,000 deficit.
So as far back as it's been an enterprise fund, there's been a loss. Is that what we're saying?
No, before it was a general fund. When it became an enterprise fund with the debt transition, the deficit started accumulating, and then after 2011 and 2012, very carefully monitoring expenditure and operations, we started consistently decrease the deficit.
Okay, thank you.
So it's never turned a profit?
Not in the enterprise fund.
So can you explain to me what is the difference between the general fund and the enterprise fund, where...
President Michaels, Commissioner Wu, back in the day, the Civic Auditorium and all of our recreation programs were funded through the general fund. Now, we have 13 enterprise-funded programs. That means it's kind of like pay as you go. You pay for the program, like our day camp program. You pay, and we hope that in the long run we make some type of profit or we break even. Civic Auditorium, as Laura had mentioned, I believe in 2008, the highest deficit that we had was $430,000 and dropped it down. But when, back in the day, when it was under the general fund, there was no push in making the money and basically making money. Now, since it's enterprise funded, we have to at least break even, and we're not breaking even. Starting in the next couple of months, we'll be working with our finance department, and the finance department has asked us to, or we need to collapse our enterprise fund and move all of our programs in the general fund. And we're going to work on that starting in the next few weeks. And as part of the budget for 18-19, we'll be collapsing our 101 fund. I'm sorry, we'll be collapsing our 501 enterprise fund into the general fund.
Well, being that, like you said, it's a paid services that we provide for people that are willing to rent out our facility for a certain rental agreement. So I'm thinking that we know going in what it's going to cost us, and I would think that we are renting it out. What the intention of meeting all those needs and also turning a profit. That's why I'm kind of confused as to when we went from a general fund to an enterprise fund, and that we're still at a loss, but yet we're continuing to do the events and what have you. And I understand, but there's probably some fixed costs, and like you said, maybe some debts that we inherited from the general fund. But I know we're heading in the right direction, but having almost $500,000 in debt and now to $59,000, I think it's a great improvement. But I still think that when we have a facility as such and it's incurring debt instead of turning a profit, and I saw the salaries and the benefits, $250,000, if not north of that, but yet we're not turning a profit. I'm just puzzled as to how that could be. I mean, some of us, we run a business, and we obviously feel like when we know what the cost is going to be, we will make sure that we have to meet those costs and expenditures and turn a profit.
Commissioner Wu, President Michaels, I think the part of the reason, and I think this is why the city was looking at collapsing the enterprise fund into the general fund, is the fact that there are some programs that are run or events that take place at the Civic Auditorium that are not fully paid for, meaning, for example, Human Resources holds personnel exams. Well, the department does incur the costs for staffing and opening the Civic Auditorium, yet the Human Resources Department doesn't necessarily pay for that when they're doing the testing there, because it's a city function, it's a city testing. So similarly, sometimes we deliver equipment to city functions or events. The staff cost that goes into the equipment cost, we don't charge for it, but they'll pay for maybe the out-of-pocket staff costs. So it's not truly operating as an enterprise fund, and that's one of the reasons why it's not necessarily profitable. Without outside events, it's not so. I mean, the outside companies, individuals that do rent the Civic Auditorium do pay for it, and it might require us increasing fees in certain respects to be able to meet the cost of the operating the Civic Auditorium if we were to keep it as an enterprise operation. And I think that's the main difference, is an enterprise operation is supposed to act as a business, like you said, and so you're technically supposed to be either breaking even or making money. But in the case of a Civic Auditorium and even some of the programs that are run out of the enterprise fund, they're not true enterprise operations, which is why the city is now looking at collapsing it back into the general fund. And the general fund is, the main resources are, let's say, the sales tax, property tax. So the funding sources that come in aren't necessarily the fees that you're charging to be able to fund the programs. And so that's the main difference between the two, is with the enterprise fund, you're supposed to be bringing in your revenue from charging a fee for those programs and rentals, whereas the general fund, you get the money from this larger pot of money that comes from taxes and whatever else into the general fund. So
I don't know if that's necessarily going to alleviate the deficit. I mean, that's not going to go away just because we go from enterprise fund to a general fund.
Absolutely. You're right. It won't eliminate the deficit. I think the revenues will still go into the general fund, and the general fund will help offset it. So it's a matter of, again, staff is working really hard to figure out how to increase the rentals and bring in new programs and be able to increase the revenues to be able to. And the way the deficit has been cut is, I mean, it's increase in revenues, but also decrease in expenses is penny pinching, making sure that no money's being spent on it unless it absolutely needs to be spent to be able to bring down that deficit.
Is there some way to do an analysis and see, like, are the fees that are being charged recouping the costs that are specific to those private events? Because it sounds like what might be generating the deficit is, city-sponsored events or happenings at the auditorium that aren't really charging outside fees.
President Michaels, Commissioner Wolfson, about 5-6 years ago, Laura and I tallied up all the city and in-kind events and delivery services that we provided, and we had about $80,000 worth of fees that were waived in terms of facility rentals, deliveries to special events, city events, nonprofit events supported by the city, about $80,000 worth. Actual cost to us, staffing-wise, was about $15,000-$20,000. But one thing I like to add too is the expenses will increase because now our building maintenance is being cost allocated, and it is hitting all of our enterprise funds. So for this year, I believe we were cost allocated about $35,000 Civic Auditorium. We will be cost allocated more next year due to the parking structure maintenance now and the maintenance at the parking lot and some additional building maintenance at the Civic Auditorium itself. So expense-wise, we will be increasing due to cost allocation of building maintenance, building repair and maintenance.
Thank you for that.
How are we going to handle the minimum wage increase?
Commissioner Kalfayan, the employees working at the Civic Auditorium are very well compensated. They're well above the minimum wage. They're also above the increase that will be at $15 an hour by 2020. I believe they're at $15.10 an hour now.
That could be true, but the problem will be your deliveries, the goods that you're going to buy, will be affected by the increase automatically.
Plus our utilities. Our utilities have increased also.
My last comment is, have we reached out to any of the major corporations that's within the city of Glendale to perhaps say, hey, you know what, we have this great facility, maybe you should consider our facility for holiday events, parties, gatherings, training, what have you? I'm assuming you probably have, but if maybe just kind of pushing that a little bit more, and especially because I know we did a facelift and we've got all these new improvements that give us a really leg up on a lot of, like you said, some of the other adjacent places that pay so much. And I think that hopefully reaching out to them and just kind of selling them on that and having them see the value in utilizing the Civic Center at a very nominal fee, very reasonable, and you get a beautiful facility. I think it could be a win-win. And so I would like to see if we could maybe just kind of reach out to them and just market them a little bit more so they always kind of consider us as one of their top 3 options, if you will.
Absolutely. Besides the modern age technology advertisement, I'm still doing the old-fashioned door-to-door sales, keeping relationships with the old customers, guests, just dropping in, just sales calls and all that stuff. That helps definitely. Keeping contact, and then word of mouth, of course, works the best.
Thank you.
I know that you have a large facility. Do you allow the facility to be segmented for smaller groups and smaller events?
Absolutely. Whatever comes to our way, we take them. We have breakout rooms if they want to rent a smaller facility for up to 100 people. There are meetings, there are luncheons. We definitely accommodate them. Everything comes our way, we take them.
And I think I would echo the comments of the Commission that in the reporting, we would like to see the nonprofit, the city event, city-sponsored events broken out in the budget. As someone who is involved with many of the nonprofits, I appreciate being able to rent the Civic Auditorium and get a discount for that, but being able to at least say the city is promoting nonprofit groups, promoting public benefits, and that is impacting the budget, that may make the picture look a little better to potential marketing, potential advertising, to say that it is a functional facility rather than saying we continue to run at a deficit, there must be something wrong.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Are there any other comments?
No.
Thank you.
The brochure looks really nice, but there's like two very minor inconsistencies in there. So I'm just going to pass it down to staff if you can take a look at it, but just for the next reprint. I just marked it on there. Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, please.
Next item is 8B, Pacific Community Center Annual Report.
Good afternoon, President Michaels, members of the Commission. My name is Sabagar Arvidian, Senior Community Services Supervisor with the Community Services and Parks Department, and I'm here to give you the Pacific Community Center Annual Report. For those of you who don't know, Pacific Community Center is part of a joint use agreement between Glendale Unified School District, specifically Edison Elementary School, the Library, Arts and Cultural Department, and the Community Services and Parks Department. The facility is open Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Friday and Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and it is closed on Sundays. Outside of the hours of operation, it is always available for rental. Services at the facility include detailed event planning. When a customer comes in to reserve the facility, its city staff will help them lay out how their party should go, where they should come in, where they should, put their food, that kind of stuff, event logistics. Staff is also trained on a wide variety of audiovisual equipment, and we accommodate rentals accordingly. Center staff have experience working special events, not just at the facility, but citywide. Special events include the Cesar Chavez commemorative event, or the Spring Extravaganza and National Night Out. Two of the department's 3 mobile recreation packages are housed out of that facility, which is Party on the Go and Glendale Rocks Climbing Wall. And we also sell Beeline passes and Reload Metro tap cards, and we're also Pacific Community Center is also a senior nutritional meal site. There's 5 indoor facilities: multi-purpose room, the conference room, Sycamore room, Oak room, Redbud, Arts and Science room. We also have the gymnasium, computer lab, the recreation room, and kitchenette, and we'll get to some pictures shortly. Outdoor facilities include the multi-purpose field, the 2 picnic shelters, the baseball field, the multi-use court, the playground with the splash pad, and the outdoor terrace. Here's a picture of the Sycamore room. We're going with the second floor for Sycamore room, conference room, Oak room, and outdoor terrace. The Oak room and outdoor terrace are actually attached, and it's an ideal location for somebody who wants to have a 50 to 60 person event. You could rent the Oak room, have an indoor-outdoor event with the terrace as well. The Sycamore room is our main meeting room. If somebody wants to have a community meeting, we usually put them in the Sycamore room. It's also the best room in terms of a classroom-style setup. And then, of course, we have our conference room, and depending on the season, we do our staff interviews from the conference room as well. On the ground floor, we have the recreation room, the Redbud room, and the arts and science room. The rec room boasts 2 billiards tables, a ping pong table, and a shuffleboard table. The art science room is our base camp for our center-operated day camp program, and the Redbud room is where the teens have their workshop on a biweekly basis on Friday nights. Here's a picture of our gymnasium. That's the top left picture is the full gymnasium. Bottom right is the gymnasium split in 2 with a partition wall. It's striped with 8 badminton courts, 2 basketball courts going sideways, 1 full-size court with the partition wall open, as well as a volleyball court. And those 8 badminton courts also serve as our pickleball courts as well. So we could do 8 badminton or 8 pickleball courts indoors. Here's a picture of our picnic shelters. Each picnic shelter accommodates up to 50 guests. Each one's equipped with a sink and a barbecue. And just recently, in coordination with our Public Works Department, all of those picnic tables just got a fresh coat of paint, and we touched up some of the picnic shelters themselves, the actual shade structures. Here's a picture of our Little League ball field, and it's Little League ball field because of the size of the outfield. We don't want we limit how old people could play baseball in that field, or else everybody's hitting home runs, like last night. It was a good one, walk off. So our baseball field is used by Vaquero Little League from July through the end of, from February through the end of July. We rent it out to any first come, first serve from the months of August through October. And then from November through February, in coordination with COCO staff and parks maintenance personnel, it undergoes its annual TLC, reseeding, sodding, whatever the case may be. Here's a picture of our multi-purpose field, predominantly used for soccer play, even though we could do anything else, including One Glendale's Flag Football Championship, which we've done twice here in the past. Our field could be split sideways. If you see the yellow lines, we could go on smaller goals, we could play sideways and split in two, or we could play the full field as you see in the picture. This field is open from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then Saturdays and Sundays from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Before that, weekdays from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., the school uses this as their playground/field. Center-based programs at Pacific Community Center include Tot Time, which is twice a week. Drop-in programs include basketball, badminton, pickleball, soccer, exercise classes, and line dancing. Drop-in recreation, the recreation room includes billiards, table tennis, and shuffleboard. Lifelong learning classes offered at the facility is a basketball class, an art class, hip-hop dance, karate, and we also offer Aikido for adults. Day camps that run out of the facility include Cool Days, Kinder Camp, and Traveling Teens Camp, and we also offer Parents' Night Out at the facility. Here's a brief or a chart of our participants. So basically, the chart shows adult drop-in badminton takes place once a week. Average hours per occurrence is 5. We get about 42 people for adult drop-in badminton on Friday nights, and a duplicated participation of 2,184. Moving on, here's some pictures of our contract classes. You can see Aikido, our basketball class. You can see our mobile recreation on the lower left, our Glendale Rocks climbing wall. And then here's a picture from our Easter extravaganza on the lower right. The community center also has a bunch of community collaborations as well. Glendale Adventist Hospital, CHLA Kids, Adventist Health Glendale Foundation, and they offer parent classes, healthy cooking classes at the facility. So during Tot Time, we'll set up a parent cooking class, or a parenting class, or a healthy cooking class, my apologies. We also partner with Glendale Community College, and for their Garfield campus, we offer lifelong learning classes at our facility for GCC. And some of the classes we offer is an ESL class, an improv class, and a contemporary world issues class. The facility is also used by Glendale Police Department, and it's home to the STAR program, students training as role models. Once a week, our STAR students meet at the facility, use the Oak Room as their home, and carry out their activities. Special events that have taken place at the facility just this last year include National Night Out and the Summer Movie in the Park, the National Charities League Annual Rummage Sale, the Glendale Educational Foundation State of the Schools Breakfast, One Glendale Flag Football Championship and Volleyball Championship, Davidia Mariamian Educational Foundation Costume Pageant, the city's Cesar Chavez Annual Commemorative Event, One Glendale Basketball Championship, the Spring Extravaganza, followed by Earth Day, followed by Davidia Mariamian Educational Foundation's graduation, and then One Glendale Soccer Championship, to name some of the big ones. Here's some pictures from some of the special events. Top right, you'll see a picture of National Night Out from last year. Bottom left is the Cesar Chavez commemorative event, and again, another Spring Extravaganza picture. Here's how the gym looks when we do something other than special events, when it's private rental. So the gym is also used by various private individuals for a birthday party or whatever event that they're doing. Sometimes they split the gym in two and they use one side to have basketball, the other side the guests will actually sit down, and the gym is flexible for that purpose as well. Anything about over 75 people, the rental usually takes place in the gym. So here's our fiscal impact for 2016-17. In the general fund, we had total expenditures of $465,036 as compared to 15-16. That cost has slightly gone up. As it relates to the special revenue fund, we had a revenue of $472,000 in 16-17 as compared to last year's $400,842. Sorry. I'll give it a second for you to compare. Next slide is our special revenue fund expenditures. We spent a total of $216,000 in 2016-17 from that special revenue fund, and our net profit loss in just the special revenue accounts, 501 in and out, is $256,309 profit compared to last year's $210. So an increase in our profit margin of about $46,000. That concludes my presentation, if anybody has any questions.
Good job.
Are there any other comments? Thank you.
No problem. I'm going to stick around for the next one, too.
Okay, next on the agenda is 8C, Summer Day Camp Programs Annual Report.
All right. Good afternoon again, President Michaels, members of the Commission. My name is Sabah Garabedian, Senior Community Services Supervisor with the Community Services and the Parks Department. So we're coming back after we talked about our day camp program. We said we would come back and give you a recap of our summer day camp program from this last summer. So as a background, if you will bear with me, the Community Services and Parks Department has been providing day camps for the past 25 years. We've been at community centers for the past 10 years, and we offer 9 day camps out of 6 locations throughout the city. In addition to those 9 day camps out of 6 locations, we offer 5 day camps that are theme-based camps through our contract class program. Our day camp program is based on the GUSD calendar, so when GUSD goes on break for 3 or more consecutive days, we offer our day camps. Here's a listing of our full day camps offered at our facilities. So you could see Blast Camp, which is at Griffith Manor Park, which is on the west side of town, let's say. Cool Days Camp, which is South Glendale. Maple Stars, South Glendale. Spectacular Camp, which takes place at Verdugo Park. Let's say it's Central Glendale. Traveling Teens Camp, again at Pacific Community Center. Grand Skate Camp and Shredders Traveling Skate Camp. So that's a listing of our full day camps that we offer throughout the city. Next slide shows our half-day camps offered citywide. So Kinder Camp, which is a half-day camp from 9 to 1, we put in this slide. There is no other option for Kinder Camp. You can't go past 1 o'clock. But if you'll bear with me, Cool Days at Pacific Community Center offers a half-day morning or afternoon camp. So parents who don't need childcare until 12 o'clock in the afternoon could sign up for the half-day and get a discount. Or if they don't need childcare after 12 o'clock, they could sign up for the morning part and pay less of a fee. Maple Stars also offers that half-day morning and half-day afternoon. And Spartacular Camp, which is at Spar Heights Community Center, offers half-day from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Here's a typical day camp agenda. This is what we mail out to the parents. So right now what you guys are seeing is week 9 for Cool Days. Just the day's activities. So that week was a Western week. That was the theme, Wild Wild West. And basically the kids come in, they check in, they'll do a group activity, they'll break out, have snack, another group activity, lunch, followed by more games, a snack, free play, and then they go home. And those group activities is when we capitalize on what we could do based on each facility. So if a facility such as Maple Park has a computer lab, or Pacific Community Center which has a computer lab, during those group activities they'll station off and go to the computer lab. So each facility separate, that's when the kids actually do their activities, whether it's arts and crafts or whatever. There's a cycle through the building, each station is set up accordingly. We also collaborate with various city departments and organizations. So here you see pictures of our Spar Heights Community Center campers, and they got a visit from Glendale Blue Line and our Public Works Traffic and Transportation section. The kids were explained how to ride the bus, where to get on, where to get off, what the bus fare is. And then after they asked their questions, they took that out of service bus and went over to the Civic Auditorium and played indoor soccer for the day, and then took the bus right back up to Spar Heights Community Center. Next, again, with Public Works Integrated Waste Management, they came over to Pacific Community Center and during Reuse, Reduce, Recycle Week, taught the kids how to recycle, what is a recyclable, how to reuse stuff. And some of the kids actually got to play around with some earthworms and what their role is in the ecosystem and recycling. Glendale Police Department visited Spar Heights Community Center, talked to the kids about safety and safety concerns that they could see out in the community. Always talk to a police officer or seek out a police officer if you need help. Don't be scared. Go out, approach the police officers. Then they got to walk or sit in the back seat, go through the squad car, lights and sirens, that kind of stuff. We had a motorcycle there as well. We also partnered with Library Arts and Culture Department. Here you see Montrose Branch Library librarians visiting Spar Heights Community Center and having a story time and reading time to the day camp participants. Also at Pacific Community Center, our kids participate in Pacific Park Branch Library's story time, which is right before tot time. And we had story walks, and they were also encouraged to read during the summer reading program. We take out our climbing wall over to Montrose Park, and day campers at Spar Heights Community Center visit Montrose Park for the day, get a chance to climb the climbing wall. In addition, for the first time this year, we took the climbing wall over to Maple Park, and Maple Stars Camp participants also had the ability to climb that climbing wall. Like I said, Adventist Health Foundation was also at our facilities. Here you see a picture of them at Maple Park and at Pacific Community Center talking to kids about healthy eating and nutrition. And moving on to registration. So like we discussed during our commission meeting back in February, we were going to set a priority registration day. This year's priority registration for Glendale residents took place on May 1st, 2017. Parents were directed to register in person at the location that they were going to send their kids. So here's a picture of Pacific Community Center taken at 6:49 in the morning. There was over 60 people in line waiting for registration day, which didn't start until 9 a.m. So the first person in line, that blue chair, whoever that person was actually in line at 5:30 in the morning waiting to register. And we told them is if you're going to register for camp at Pacific Community Center, go to Pacific Community Center to sign up. If you're going to register for camp at Spar Heights, go to Spar Heights and sign up. Priority registration was set by our residency policy, and here's the map of our residency policy. Like we discussed during the meeting, we said that zip codes 91201 to 91010 or 99120, 91210, sorry, in addition to 91020 and parts of 91011, which is the Sagebrush area, were going to be considered GUSD residents, and that was based on the GUSD policy. So registration information for this year. Throughout summer, 4,675 duplicated participants enrolled in our day camp program. 86%, about 4,034 of them were Glendale residents. 645 or 14% were non-residents based on that chart that we just saw. 1,178 unduplicated participants registered for our day camp program, of which 919 were Glendale residents, 259 were non-residents. So those are the unduplicated numbers. And the difference is I could sign up for a camp for my child, let's say, for 10 weeks at a time. My child gets counted 10 times, so that's a duplicated participant, but it's only one child. So that's the difference in those numbers. 91.5% of all registrations were completed in person or over the phone. 8.5% were completed online. All camps were at a minimum capacity of 76%. Or let me rephrase that sentence. All camps were at a minimum 76% capacity. That means we were 76% full at all of our camps. Some of the camps, such as Maple Park Community Center and Pacific Community Center, some of those camps were actually booked throughout the summer season. But when you take all the numbers at all of the camps, 76% is the number you get. So at Pacific Community Center, even though we said we were full for all 10 weeks, week 10, which was the last week of camp, had 99 out of 100 spaces available that were already booked. So we had one space left. And week 10 being the last week before the kids went back to school, it wasn't a popular week. And usually, typically what happens is the week of 4th of July and that last week are the 2 weeks that parents usually choose not to enroll their kids in camp so they could do their family vacations. So here's a chart with the zip codes of residents and non-residents. North Glendale being 59% of the population that enrolled in our camps. South Glendale at 19%, and non-Glendale residents at 259 people, or 22%.
The non-Glendale resident number does it include the zip codes you talked about?
Okay, so the zip code 91011, so there was 11 people that signed up from 91011. only one person was considered a Glendale resident, so they're in that North Glendale number, 9, 10, 11, if you see in the blue. All the other ones that came in from that 9, 10, 11 zip code are considered in the green in the non-Glendale resident area. So here's our participation numbers by camp. Basically breaking down all of the camps and the number of kids we had throughout the camp. So if you see a max capacity of 75, take that number and divide it by 10 because it's 75 kids per week per campsite. So 10 weeks of camp offered, so it's actually 75 per week, not 750, sorry. So Blast Camp, for example, could accommodate 75 kids each week. Times 10 weeks, 750 is the max capacity.
So were some of them above capacity?
Some of them were, and I'm glad you asked that. So at Cool Days Camp, for example, we enrolled a child into kinder camp. Kinder camp wasn't full, we enrolled the child, but the older brother or sister also needs childcare. And Cool Days Camp is full. What do? Do you take one kid and have the parent deal with the other one? So what we do in some situations is override and take that sibling for whatever reason and go over that number. And towards the end of summer, if you see Traveling Teens Camp at 187 and the capacity is at 150, the capacity is actually dictated by our 15-passenger van, which takes the kids to various locations for their weekly excursion. So for the last 3 weeks of summer, what we did was we said we have over 15 kids signed up. We have some kids that have signed up through Traveling Teens Camp as a result of the scholarship or discount. And it's not fair for not everybody to go to, let's say, Magic Mountain or whatever. So we just opened it up, enrolled off our waiting list, and said we'll just get 2 vans. So. Speaking of scholarships and discounts, so for the first time at Commission's direction, we offered a scholarship and discount opportunity. And the scholarship and discount were advertised on the city's website, in the Leisure Guide, Summer Wrap-Up, and Department Newsletter. Those 4 items is where we advertise our day camp program. So if that Summer Wrap-Up or the Leisure Guide went to a school on a Thursday folder, that information was already included in that Wrap-Up and Leisure Guide, or whatever the case may be, whatever the document is. Opportunity was advertised after policy approval, and the original deadline was on April 3rd. However, we extended that deadline to April 25th, giving, as we got a couple of requests to extend it, they came in on April 5th or 6th, whatever the date was. And we said, okay, since it's the first time and we wanted the word to get out there and not to penalize anybody, we extended the deadline to April 25th. April 25th was just in time to review all the apps because registration was going to begin on May 1. So here's the numbers for our scholarship. We had a total of 20 applications submitted with that program. Of the 20, 18 of them qualified for a full scholarship. 2 applicants qualified for a 10% discount. The total value of the scholarships is $15,124, which means that we did not collect $15,124 from those people that received a full scholarship through us. And the total value of the discounts is $134.80. The discount is 10% off, which means we didn't collect $134.80, and we gave that person a 10% discount at time of registration. And here are the numbers. So 5 people, 5 applications were for Maple Stars Camp. Nobody at Maple Stars got a discount. Everybody got a full scholarship. Kinder Camp had 3 full scholarships. Cool Days had 7 full scholarships and 2 discounts. Traveling Teens Camp had 3 full scholarships, and that's how you get your 18 and 2 out of the 20 applications submitted. So there were some challenges with the day camp discount policy. We noticed that there was a lack of attendance lack of attendance from some of the participants who received the full scholarship, and basically that was twofold. We would notice that a parent would sign up for their scholarship recipient child from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., but didn't really need the child care from 9 to 4. So what we would actually have to staff hours. We would have to schedule staff from 7 to 9 or 4 to 6 because they signed up for before or after care, but that person wasn't needing it throughout the entire camp. And then we also noticed that 9 out of the 18 scholarship applicants had an attendance of less than 60%. That means that half of them didn't show up for half of the time out of those scholarship applications. 7 out of the 9 actually attended 2 days of camp out of the possible 49 and didn't come back for whatever reason is unknown. 8 participants took the space of a paying customer during the first 4 weeks, and since the camp is 10 weeks long, first 4 weeks, so almost about halfway through after the first month of camp, staff noticed that trend and decided to go off the waiting list and fill in those spaces as opposed to having them occupy a space of a paying customer. We have some recommendations that we're going to incorporate into our discount policy. One of them is when an applicant is approved for a full scholarship, we're recommending that they have to record an attendance of at least 60% of the time, unless for medical reasons they cannot attend. They broke their arm, they have to stay home, whatever the case may be. 60% of the time attendance, we feel that's appropriate. That's actually missing about 2 days of camp each week. Full scholarship recipients will be dropped from the camp roster if they don't attend more than that time after 2 weeks, and then we'll go ahead and fill in those spots with a paying customer. And this works for the summer day camp program. It's harder for our seasonal camp program, which is 3 days long in itself or 2 weeks long when it comes to winter break. Also, what we'd like to do is put in an ineligibility. So for those scholarship applicants that don't attend 60% of the time, we would like to make them ineligible from receiving a scholarship from future camps that the department's providing. Basically, we're giving you the resource. If you're not going to take use of that resource moving forward, we're not going to let you apply and get that discount. Moving back to the fun stuff, Let's Play Day. Now, on July 27th, we had our all-day camps Let's Play Day. Some of our commissioners were present on that day. We had over 500 kids at Pacific Community Center taking part in various activities, from arts and crafts to like tug of war, potato sack race, whatever the case may be. All the kids were treated to an ice cream on that day. Some of the kids had lunch and came over, and we did it in the afternoon to accommodate Spar Heights day campers, because they're in the afternoons as well from 12 to 6. So we really try to make an effort and bring all the kids together and have everybody have fun together. And that was in celebration of July's Parks Make Life Better month. Towards the end of camp, we started conducting a parent survey. The parent survey was conducted from August 8th through September 15th. It was a 22-question survey, and the questions helped evaluate some of the following, and I could read it real quick. Priority registration, experience with registration, preferred method, what criteria is important when selecting a camp. Does a parent actually prefer Pacific because of the pool, or does the parent prefer Pacific because it's on their route home, to work, or whatever the case may be. Camp prices and the value, communication with the parents, overall satisfaction, safety, meals, field trips, cleanliness of the facilities were all covered in that 22-question survey. And the survey results revealed that on average, approximately, at all of our camps, our average age, our target audience, is about 8.5 years old. So taking from kinder camp all the way to our traveling teens camp, our average age is right there in the middle at about 8.5 years old. Nearly 85% of the survey participants indicated that they were Glendale residents. 67% preferred online registration. 77% of the participants rated our registration process as good or excellent. The 3 phone calls that we got during that day kind of disagreed. 89% of the participants rated our prices as good or excellent. 88% rated the value of the camp for the price was good. 93% of those surveyed rated the day camp programs as good or excellent. Continuing on, I'd like to highlight the last one. 95% indicated that they would return in the future, which means we're putting a good product out there. If you guys are ready to move forward. Some of the areas that we see an opportunity for improvement in our day camp program is our parent forms. What we mean by that is right now the form follows the site. So if a kid is signed up for a camp at one location, that parent form doesn't follow that kid when the parent signs up at a different location the following week. And we'd like to kind of figure out a way to centralize this and have the forms follow the kids and not the sites itself, because we're not sharing between sites for fear of one site might lose it, one site isn't at a facility, it's at a park, that kind of stuff. So we're having the parents refill an 8-page form, and that's not really customer service friendly. So one thing that we're looking at is parent forms. Next thing we're looking at is parent information packets. In looking at our day camp program over the last year, we noticed that some camps will provide an email to parents in the form of a camp handbook and give all the to-dos, all what's going on in that camp, and other camp locations are not going in depth. And we like to kind of standardize this, and the look, the feel, the information that we're passing on. Yes, it's specific to that location, but it should all look the same because it's all coming from the same department at the end of the day. So that's one area of improvement that we're also looking into working on for next year. Centralized registration day to one site. So there's some confusion if a person would like to register for a camp at Pacific, and for 1 week or for 4 weeks when we offer our skate camp, they want to sign up for the skate camp during those 4 weeks, but Pacific before and after, where do they go? So what we're thinking about right now is you go to Pacific because that's going to be your home site. We could take the registration at Pacific to do the skate camp, but it's creating a lot of confusion. So one of the things that we're looking at is similar to our aquatics program, centralizing the registration to one site at one location at specific times. That way, everybody goes to the same place on that one specific day, whichever day that is, and we do registration there. And the second part to that is we want to incorporate a way in working with our ISD department is having the people that are registering, the computers, actual terminals, be in the same room where the people are waiting, so that there isn't this impression that staff is goofing off in the back and we're coming out every 10 minutes calling somebody's number. Just some figures for that day. On the first day of registration at Pacific Community Center, we had 170 kids signed up between the hours of 8:40 a.m. to 1 p.m. 840 people at 8 terminals being processed throughout the time. We did an average, registration time of 4 minutes per person. Yet those 3 phone calls that I mentioned were the staff is taking too long. What's going on? Because they don't see staff struggling because the parent is changing their mind or whatever the case may be. So we want to put the staff person in the same room as everybody else who's waiting and say, look, here we are. We're all in the same fishbowl together. We're all working as fast as we can. We're not having a party in the back. So that's one of the things with central registration that we want to improve. And processing proof of residency, because last year was the first one, we knew this was going to be a problem, but we want this to be an ongoing thing, not just a one-time thing, a cyclical thing. Anytime somebody wants to prove that they're a resident because they're going to sign up for our camps, by all means, come on in, show whatever it is, the utility bill, whatever the documentations are, prove that you're a registrant. Let's get that out of the way and let's move on with registration process on the day of registration and not tie the two together, because that was a big problem too. Some people were actually bringing out their deeds and I'm like, oh my God, please by all means keep that by you. Thank you very much. Stamp, here we go. Let's move on. I don't want to touch the deeds to their house. Thank you very much. But that's pretty much it in terms of areas of improvement that we're seeing that we collected from the survey. Fiscal impact. We did introduce non-resident fees this year. And on behalf of those non-resident fees of $15 per child for the non-resident, we collected an additional $10,887 in non-resident fees. The revenue for this year for camp went up by $35,000. That's partly because we increased the fees at some of the camps, and that's partly because we had an increased number of participation. So we can't pinpoint what the reason is. However, the $35,000 increase in revenue is based on this year's numbers, 2017 summer camp numbers, at 2016's camp prices. So if we didn't increase the fees, and we kept the fees the same like they were in 2016, with 2017's registration numbers, the difference is $35,000, if that makes sense. If I lost anybody, I'll gladly repeat it. But basically, the difference in fees is $35,000. Yes, that also accounts for the increased number of participants that we had in our day camp program. So the total revenue for all of our camps, at all 9 camps at 6 locations that we talked about, was $482,700. Total expenses were $489,600, with a net profit loss with a loss of $6,900. So that is the total fiscal impact for summer camp 2017. And that concludes my presentation. Ready for some questions if you have any.
Are there any questions?
I actually want to know how the individuals that received the scholarships and applied and received the discount policies. How do that participation, their participation compares to those that have paid? I understand that we already, took the money and whatnot, but in regards to their participation level, do you have comparison numbers to that?
I do not have a comparison to the person that's paid, only because the paid person, they paid for it. They're not asking for a refund. As long as they're not asking for a refund, I didn't compare it. And the numbers are staggering. Let's say at Pacific Community Center, right? There's 100 kids, so who do I really compare to? I would have to get like a sample size and do something like that. So I didn't compare it to specifically them. But staff, without my actual direction in the beginning, were actually monitoring who the scholarship participants were and if they were showing up to camp. And early on, they said they're not showing up. I said, don't do anything. They're allowed to show up just like anybody else. Well, a month later, when we're full and we're refusing people and adding to our 30-person waiting list, that's when I said, okay, enough is enough. Let's open it up. Let's move on. We kept their numbers, actually. We didn't disenroll them. We didn't take them out. So had they showed up week 6, 7, or 8, that child would have been accommodated because they're enrolled. We never took them off the roster. We just said, okay, we're going to go to 101 or we're going to go to 102 in light of the fact that we had 2 people on the scholarship.
I really like your recommendations for changes for the discount policy, but I would also like to see a comparison number and see if there is a trend between people that pay and don't pay. Thank you.
On the survey, you noted that 67% prefer online registration, but in your presentation, it was a very small number that registered online. Was that due to the online registration was after priority registration, or what was the reasoning for that?
President Michaels, members of the commission, yes, that is correct. It's because our online registration started after priority registration. And at the time, we were working with our reservation system, our registration system, to figure out how we could allow priority registration for residents only specifically, and then non-residents the following day. Well, we kind of figured out what that solution is, and we might be able to introduce that next year. However, going online is going to create a challenge. So what's going to happen is when all of us are in the same room trying to register and there's only 4 terminals, somebody at home on their own computer is doing the same thing that 4 of the staff are doing. So by the time I get to the 8th person in line here, that person might not have a space. So that's something that we need to figure out, are we going to be okay with that or not? Because you're actually putting in the time showing up in person. Do we accommodate that person? Which is what we do on the first day of registration, as long as the spots are available. But once we go online, it's going to be a free-for-all. Everybody's going to be on their own. So it's possible. We could now we figured it out with the residency and non-residency designation in our software, that's actually allowing for residents to register ahead of time than non-residents. The same will transition over to the online version as well. So we can pull this off and accommodate the 67% that want to do online registration as well. So it can be done. But the central registration day is, I think, key, because it allows for everybody to come. Some people just want to talk to another person in person. The 170 at Pacific, I want to say most of them were like, thank you, because they are asking questions in that process. It's an opportunity for them to interact as well.
Would having a pre-registration process online be able to provide the documentation for the residency, other issues, and speed up the actual registration in person if information were put in place beforehand?
Commissioner Michaels, members of the commission, so pre-registration, you mean creating a username and password and providing documentation prior to the registration? Yes, absolutely. That would definitely help the process. For every household that we don't have to input into the system on the day of registration, that's one less step that we have to do before we go onto the payment screen and actually collect the funds. So if I know that my 2 children are going to be in the camp and I'm not a user of the park system, and I go ahead of time and input my name, address, telephone number, their age, their name, all of that information, and do that ahead of time, that's actually about 1.5 minutes in the registration process that we eliminate. And we know that information is guaranteed. And now we actually have an email address, which is something we don't necessarily get most of the time when we do it in person. So.
How do we cover the deficit? The $9,000, was it $9,000?
$6,900. President Michaels, Commissioner Coffin, all of that is in our special revenue fund. So there's other portions of the special revenue fund that are performing, such as the PCC annual report that I showed you, where it netted about $226,000. So that offsets the $6,900 deficit. Same with the Civic Auditorium as well.
Previous year, how much was deficit?
Previous year, $44,000.
So we increased the deficit because the
We
scholarship.
We reduced it. The scholarship, $15,000 weren't collected, but that didn't impact the overall deficit, which we were able to reduce.
President Michaels, members of the commission, this year we had a large increase in day camp registration, plus with increase in day camp fees, we reduced some expenses. Our deficit was reduced from $44,000 to $6,900, due in part with the good service that the staff provides, and we receive a lot of compliments with our day camp program. We're still pricing wise, we're a little bit lower than the cities around the area and nonprofits around the area, but we did reduce our deficit tremendously, and hopefully next year we'll have a net profit loss of zero. So.
Okay, go ahead.
Were there any other comments or questions?
Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have item 8D, section activity reports at 1 Workforce Development.
President Michaels, members of the commission, we have 4 section activity reports in your packets. I know we're running out of time. There's another meeting in a few minutes that's going to start. So with that being said, if you have any questions regarding any of the section activity reports, we do have staff here available to answer any of your questions.
Are there any questions? I did have one question regarding the job requests. As I asked at the last meeting, with the retirement of the pesticide applicator, that gave an opportunity to look at whether or not there was an impact on the parks with a lack of or a decrease in pesticide applications. Would staff be able to look at what the actual results of that period, if there were any complaints of pests or weeds in the parks with that decrease, and be able to present information on that?
Yes, good afternoon, President Michaels, members of the commission. We are still in the process of recruiting our pesticide applicator. And yes, our application of pesticides have shrunk given the report that you see. We've had only a handful of them the past couple of months with Roundup, which is what we normally would use for controlling the weeds, down to about 2 applications per month, actually 3 in total, of no more than 10 ounces. We have noticed that in our parks, we have seen an increase of weeds. And we've tried to mitigate that by using manual labor and trying to address it. And as far as complaints go, we haven't received an increase in the complaints, but just internally we have observed that the lack of use of Roundup does result in an increase of our weeds. As we've talked in the past, we also have started looking at alternatives to Roundup as options, such as Avenger. We've even purchased it. Just that since we don't have a pesticide applicator yet, we haven't attempted to test it out in the field to see what the results will be. Although my colleagues in other agencies that have tried it, they do say it's more of a topical. It will kill the plant. It will kill the weeds. It's just it will not impact the roots with the same level. Hence, you will see the weeds come back at a lot faster rate. We haven't had the opportunity to test it in-house yet. We plan to when we get a pesticide applicator. And we're still currently in the process of recruiting for that position. Pests, generally, we have experienced an increase in pests this year. Because of the heavy rains that we experienced, the population exponentially must have grown. We have experienced a lot of pests within our facilities that we've dealt with by hiring our contract pesticide applicator company, Cats USA, and we have them doing service at a lot of our community centers as well as in the parks as necessary.
Thank you. Is there any other business?
No, next would be adjournment.
We stand adjourned.